Our last speaker is Dr. Anat Lapidot-Firilla from the Van Leer Institute, Jerusalem. And Dr. Anat Lapidot is a senior research fellow and an academic director of the Mediterranean unit at the Van Leer Jerusalem Institute. She's also the head of the Forum for the Study of Turkey and editor of the Journal of Levantine Studies. She teaches Turkish foreign policy at the Department of International Relations at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and her research focuses on various aspects of religion, politics, and identity conflicts with an emphasis on Turkey. And Dr. Anat Lapidot will give us a talk about a new version of nationalist Islam, question mark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking my colleague, Galia, for the invitation. Thank you very much, and for organizing this very interesting conference. It's very rare that I start my presentation with some kind of admission that I completely agree with the previous speaker. Don't worry, I agree with most of your things, but there are some things that I would like to present here, which reflects a different approach, perhaps, to the issue of Islam in Turkey. I will start with some points of agreement, both with Alon, but mainly with Gareth. I will start, first of all, with your presentation on the theological issue, Gareth. I agree. There are no Turkish theologians. In fact, this is the great achievement of Kemalism. There is no theology in Turkey. Well, there is a faculty of theology. There are some theological discussions, but this is not something that dominates Turkish Islam. However, my problem with this analysis is that you assume that there is Turkish Islam and it's dominated by what you call Sufi social movements in Turkey. I mean, I do not disagree with it completely, but I think that if we look carefully at the development of the Islamic arguments and analysis in Turkey and the demands, then we realize that there is no original claims that were constructed in Turkey at all. In fact, all of the arguments that were written by Davutoglu and others were not Turkish originally. They came from Iran, they came from Egypt, they came even from Christian world. There's nothing Turkish about it. However, there are two interesting phenomena in that regard. A is indeed the influence of social movements. Some of them were also organized in a Sufi underground originally, but later on the ground movements and enclaves. But the other thing which is more important for our discussion is the importance of the legal scholarships. It's not about theology, but it's about attempts to create some legal procedure that we have seen early in the late 19th century, beginning of 20th century, and we have seen it in other countries, and we called it the reformist Islamic movements or the modernist a la Muhammad Abdu. And I think that if we are looking at the attempts in Turkey to create an Islamic version for the Turkish nation, then we see that their inclination is to go toward those periods and efforts of people like Ali Suavi, who was Turkish, but his effort was at some kind of a reform to look at the hadith and the fiqh and to organize it differently and to decide what is suitable for our days and what is not. And we see that today, in spite of our claims that there is nothing Turkish about this Islam, there is an attempt to create for the first time Turkish Islam. Whether it's going to be successful or not, I cannot say, but this is the beginning of a creation of a Turkish Islam. So this is my first comment. And the second one has to do with what Alon said about one of the achievements, and I agree with you on that, one of the achievements of Erdogan and his party is to understand that you cannot have a public sphere without religion. The point where I disagree with you is that I don't think that they understand that you cannot have public sphere without religion. I think that they disagree with the actual separation between religion and secular. They do not accept the claim that there is something called secular and there is something called religion. So this is an even deeper claim that they have. It's not originally Turkish, but I think that's what dominates their world. If we go to the Vutolu, as was explained very nicely by Gareth, I think the most important book is Shifting Paradigms, of course. Not a very easy book to read. In fact, I prefer all the rest of them in that sense, but I think it's the most important book to explain the worldview of the people that rule Turkey today. And what stands in the heart of it is the argument that the actual separation between religion and secular is a Protestant claim, and there is nothing like that. And if you accept, like the Kemalists accepted, the separation between religion and secular, and the secular, then you're actually converting to Protestantism. And this is the basic claim. So the result is exactly what you're describing, but the claim is a little bit different. And I think this is something we should not overlook. It's in the heart of the Islamic movement today, whatever it means, Islamic movement, because of course there are many movements inside. This is crucial because if you agree with me, and there is nothing like Turkish Islam, in spite of the attempts to create one, and you agree with me, and I agree with Gareth on that Gulen is not considered to be another theologian, not an important figure in the Islamic world. Not even in Turkey, I would say that his influence is that important. It is important in the sense of, or in the sphere of creating some conservative circles. It is important in the political sense because he managed to use his circles to organize politically and to infiltrate some important institutions in Turkey. But in the end of the day, if you're asking what is importance in establishing some kind of a coherent political ideology, I don't think he has any influence. So what can I offer you in order to sort out these Islamic claims in Turkey? If Islam is not a religion, okay, and the separation is, to start with, a false separation taking from the Protestant world. So what is Islam? Well, I agree that Islam is not a religion. With that, I agree with the Vutolu and Erdogan. And I also agree with Gareth that there's no point of looking into a political argument that is based on theological or Shariat assumptions or claims. So what I can offer you is the following. I believe that the AKP regime is trying to challenge the Western world and the Kemalist institutions in two ways. One is the adoption of a civilization, the civilization argumentation or the civilization discourse. So Turkey is not a national state. It is the leading state of the Islamic civilization. And we're not talking about religion, but we are talking about a civilization. The same way the West is civilization, or if you want, the Far East or Chinese civilization. This is how they view themselves, and I advise us to take it very seriously. The second thing, which stands almost in opposition to it, is the reduce of religion, of Islam into an ethical-based movement. And this is more important at the moment because the civilization claims is theoretical almost, but the ethical aspect is noticeable on the ground. And I think this is very crucial to the understanding of Turkish Islam. The replacement of the theological discourse that exists in other places, and for a moment we thought theology is coming to Turkey, but not at all. So the replacement of theological-based discourse is with the ethical discourse, where the boundaries, where civil rights and religious norms are blurred often. So look, for example, I'll give you a very good example, and that is the abortion discourse, okay, that alarm us women and alarm many in the Western world and also in Turkey. It's very difficult to determine that this is an Islamic discourse only, because A, it exists in the world, in the Western world, it exists in the US, and also the argumentations, when you look at the discourse, the argumentation of both sides are based on Western discourse and has to do with the rights of the fetus, the rights of the woman to her body, and so on. There is no Islamic, and there's no religious, if you believe in religion, there's no religious argumentations here. It's all based on Western norms, on human rights norms, which is interesting. So they managed to blur the boundaries between West and East, between human rights and religious discourse. So this is one of their main achievements. And the other sphere that I can give you as an example is the sphere of foreign policy. If you look at the argumentation that dominate the explanation of the leaders of Turkey on their behavior in the international water, okay, in the national norms, they are demanding they're demanding from us, from all of us, that the international world or the international order will be based on ethical norms. They give it sometimes some interesting explanation that this is accepted by other countries like Canada, Japan, even England. For example, they explain that this is what they may call the shift from Hobbes to Kant. They can give it a lot of argumentation, but at the end of the day, this is exactly what I'm describing. It's taking ethical set of mind and reflecting it or projecting it into international water. And I think on this issue, if I'll take a loan system and I'll try to grade them, I think they are deluding themselves. It's an illusion that they're creating, and therefore, when it comes to foreign policy, I would say strategically they are committing a lot of sins, if I'll use the appropriate terminology. They are mainly creating harm to themselves, and on that regard, I will give them a very low grade. But if I have a few more minutes, I'll just... 2 minutes. I have, excellent. 7 minutes, that's even better. Finally, I will ask again the question that I was aiming at the title. Are we talking about some kind of a new version of nationalist Islam? Well, to answer that, I need to look at the institutions, not on the popular ground, not on the social movements. I need to look only at the institutions. And my answer is yes. In the end of the day, in spite of the separation, in spite of the challenge to the separation between religion and the secular, I believe that if we are looking at the education ministry, if we are looking at all the ministries today and what they're doing, I believe that in 10 years we will be able to look back and say that in fact they created exactly what the Kemalists created, except one thing, that while the Kemalists turned Islam into a social category with which we can sort the population, and that is some kind of a creation of Kemalist Islam, today we are doing exactly the opposite. We are creating an Islamic Kemalism. And that means some kind of authoritarian regime, which the Kemalists were. We are creating a legal-based Turkish Islam. So we are introducing not new ulama, although I suspect this will be the next stage, some kind of upgraded state bureaucrats of religion. But mainly we are offering now, or the Turkish government is trying to offer a systematic way of teaching Islam. And this, in my opinion, is exactly the opposite of the Kemalists, but the result is some kind of a nationalist Islam that never existed before. So I'll sum up here, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of debates here about everything that was said. Thank you very much.